You ever buy 100 acres of gorgeous lakeshore up in northern Minnesota thinking you're buying into a little slice of peace and quiet, only to find out you've basically adopted a whole village of angry wasps? Because I did. My name's Xavier, and if you're about to move into a place with an HOA, you might want to listen up. Or, hey, maybe you're one of those HOA types yourself. Don't worry, I've got something for you too. Now, I didn't always dream of Minnesota. I was a pilot for years, Alaska bush plains, living on caffeine and diesel and cold air. I always figured one day I'd hang it up somewhere peaceful. When I found this place, Lake Vermilion, a patch of woods so still you could almost hear the water remembering ice, I thought I'd struck gold. The previous owner, a guy named Harold, had run timber off the land decades back. He'd left a boatload of history behind, a rickety dock, a boathouse, and here's the kicker. A private gravel road cutting through the trees, the only real way in or out for the folks living in the subdivision next door. Whispering Pines, they called it. Even the name sounds harmless, right? I didn't know much about HOAs. Didn't know Harold had let them use his road on a handshake, nothing on paper. That detail, by the way, is what they call foreshadowing. I didn't care, really. I'm not looking to pick a fight. I built my dream, a cedar lodge, big windows, the kind of spot where you wake up with the sun burning off the fog and just watch the lake shimmer. My biggest headache was deciding which seaplane to take up first. Yeah, I know. Rough life, you're thinking. Everything was quiet until she moved in. Patricia, 50-something fresh off a divorce and apparently convinced her calling was to whip Whispering Pines into some exclusive little kingdom. She got herself elected HOA president faster than you can say Robert's Rules of Order, mostly by showing up and out-talking everybody at meetings. Suddenly everything was about community standards and preserving our property values. You know the type, right? The sort of person who can find fault with a sunrise. I met her one perfect August morning. I was out doing pre-flight on my old Beaver, minding my own business, when here comes Patricia in a bright white Mercedes kicking up dust on my road like she owned the place. She hops out, hair perfect, nails perfect, expression like she'd just bitten into something sour. She marches up and says, "Are you Xavier Crawford?" I'm thinking, here we go. I tell her, yeah, and she launches into this speech about how my little airplane hobby is disruptive and not appropriate for a residential area. I explain gently at first that it's not a hobby, it's my life, my job, my land. The FAA knows about it, the state knows about it. The county doesn't care. But she doesn't want to hear any of that. She wants to talk about property values, about maintaining the character of Whispering Pines. It's like she's reading from some HOA manifesto, one sentence away from marching me out with torches and pitchforks. You ever try to reason with someone who's already decided you're the villain in their story? It's a waste of breath. I told her as much, asked her to leave my property, and figured that'd be the end of it. Spoiler, it was just the beginning. Patricia didn't come at me with torches. She came at me with paperwork, noise complaints, safety complaints, made-up environmental violations. She even tried to get my dock permit pulled by claiming I was scaring the fish. You can't make this stuff up. Every time a government guy showed up, I handed him my stack of permits and let him do his thing. They always left shaking their heads, probably more annoyed at her than at me. Then she tried to get creative. The HOA sent me a notice, a piece of paper, real official looking, saying they'd passed some new ordinance against commercial seaplane operations within 2 miles of the subdivision. And get this, apparently my property was now in their community impact zone. I read that thing 3 times just for the comedy. Called my lawyer Margaret Sharp as a tack loves a good fight, and she laughed for a solid minute. Xavier, their jurisdiction ends at their own property lines. Toss it in the fireplace and send them a nice letter to make it official. So I did. That should have been that. But you know how it goes when you beat someone at their own game. Sometimes they just double down. Couple weeks later, I come home from a supply run to find Deputy Mike County Sheriff's Department standing by my dock with a cease and desist order in his hand. Patricia and her minions had filed a complaint claiming I was running an illegal airport. Mike's a good guy, a little embarrassed. He's just delivering the paperwork, tells me I'll need to show up at a zoning hearing. I just shake my head. So we go to court. Well, zoning board. Margaret's got all my ducks in a row. FAA letters, county approvals, DNR, sign-offs, everything but a note from my mom. Patricia's lawyer. Poor kid, looked about 12, tries to argue. I'm basically O'Hare International. Margaret just smiles and picks him apart point by point. The board sides with me, tells the HOA to quit wasting everyone's time. Did that stop Patricia? Oh, buddy, you'd think so, but she's got one more card to play. I wake up one morning to a fresh row of survey stakes along my road, little signs saying Property of Whispering Pines, HOA no trespassing. I'm standing there in my bathrobe, coffee in hand, thinking, is this real life? Turns out Patricia's trying to claim the road itself on my land belongs to the HOA through adverse possession. It's this legal theory where if you use somebody's property long enough without permission, it can become yours. Except small detail. Harold and I had always given permission. No case, no chance. Margaret tells me to yank the stakes out, pile them up at my gate, and send another letter. I add a note on top. Nice try. That's when I started thinking about what I call the nuclear option. See, that road isn't just handy for the subdivision, it's their lifeline. Without it, they've got to take a crumbling forest road that's a nightmare in winter. I talk it over with Margaret. Can I lock the gate, cut them off? Legally, yes, there's no written easement. But she says, just know it'll get ugly. Real ugly. And she's right. I sleep on it, but every day Patricia keeps pushing. She drags me through hearings, gets county officials up in my business, costs me money, time, peace of mind. Then she shows up on my property with her lawyer and 2 county guys trying to document unsafe conditions. She wants a restraining order to stop my plane ops. I tell them all to leave. She screams at me, tells me I'm going to lose everything, that this is just the beginning. Margaret checks the court records. Sure enough, there's a restraining order filing. It gets tossed out the next day. Even the judge sounds annoyed in the official denial. You'd think at some point she'd get tired, but she just keeps coming. Finally, I've had enough. I send out a letter, certified mail, to the HOA and every homeowner. As of January 1st, the road's closed. I'm putting up a gate. No more free ride across my land. I'm done being nice. That set off a firestorm. Residents call, plead, curse, some even threaten. One guy, Robert, tries to reason with me. He's worried about his elderly parents. I tell him honestly to take it up with Patricia. If they want the road open, maybe they should have a talk with their president. The HOA sues, tries to claim a prescriptive easement, another legal Hail Mary. We end up back in court, this time in front of Judge Reynolds, who looks about as tired of this as I am. Margaret lays out every bit of evidence, permission always given, nothing ever recorded, no hostile use, no case. The judge rules from the bench, no easement, road is mine, end of story. He tells the HOA to negotiate if they want access. And here's where the twist comes in. The other homeowners finally realize Patricia's crusade is hurting them more than it's hurting me. They start a petition, force a special election, and Patricia gets the boot 43-7. New President Douglas calls me and asks if we can talk about a real agreement. I tell him what I want: a formal recorded easement payment for the use, a promise they'll leave my seaplanes alone. Douglas agrees it's reasonable. We hash it out. Sign the papers. The HOA pays me more than enough to cover my legal costs and then some. The gate comes down. Peace at last settles in. But Patricia, well, she wasn't done yet. One afternoon, I hear glass break. I run out to find her in my hangar, smashing the window of my Cessna with a bat. She's a mess, crying, yelling about how I ruined her, how nobody appreciates her hard work. I record the whole thing. Sheriff shows up and takes her away. She ends up with probation, a big fine, and a civil settlement that, let's just say, hurt more than her pride. Last I heard, she moved to Arizona to live with her sister. After all that, life finally gets good again. The neighbors, most of them anyway, go out of their way to be decent. The HOA sticks to fixing roads and shoveling snow just like they should. I start giving flying lessons to local kids, host barbecues, even get cookies from Mary, the sweet old lady who used to worry about ambulances getting through. The thing is, most people are reasonable if you give them a chance and stand your ground when it counts. And the lesson: sometimes you have to fight for what's yours, even if it makes you the villain in somebody else's story. Being reasonable only works if the other side is too. And sometimes to stop a bully, you have to show your teeth, lock the gate, hold your ground, make them realize you can't be pushed around. I hated the stress, hated that people who'd done nothing wrong got caught up in it, but letting Patricia win would have been worse. Not just for me, but for everyone she'd go after next. Funny thing, years later when I ran into Patricia in Phoenix, I just walked away. Nothing left to say. Some people never change. But me? I built a life I love, taught a few kids how to fly, and never had to worry about another HOA crusade. The community is stronger for it. Clear rules, real respect. No more little tyrannies. The lake's still here, the planes still fly, and I sleep well, knowing I stood up when it mattered. So let me ask you, where's the line between standing up for your rights and being stubborn? Have you ever had to fight back against someone who just wouldn't leave you alone? Was it worth it? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop a comment, share your take. Because one thing's for sure, life's too short to let anyone else decide how you live it.